Well, a statement since emanated from senators from the South saying that they back wholeheartedly the resolutions presented by the governors of the South as well. To discuss how that is going to proceed, what the backing will mean, we have with us this morning Senator Matthew Uroyide, who is the Secretary of Southern Senators. Distinguished, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much, Mokwe. Thank you for having me.
Well, the statement came rather swiftly from... I didn't even know that there was a group called Southern Senators. It would seem that was the first time I was seeing it, and it came shortly after we saw the meeting of Southern governors, which, you know, they say it happens pretty often, but that this one is the first time they're meeting physically in a while because of COVID-19. However, their resolutions seem to be more direct, more distinct this time around. And you, that's senators from the South as well, have come out to say, we back you wholeheartedly. You need to work with the leadership of the National Assembly. How is this going to pan out, in your own opinion?
Well, first, let me say that, you know, the Southern Senators Forum, you know, has always existed in the Senate. In fact, from the 7th Assembly to the 8th to the 9th, as a matter of fact, I was the Secretary General too of the Southern Senators Forum, you know, in the 8th Senate. So the 9th Senate, you know, we had to, you know, our leadership put in place, you know, some ways back. Let me say that, you know, our support, you know, for the resolutions of Southern governors is not misplaced at all, because there are issues that are germane, agitating the minds of our people. When we say our people, even if we have to limit it to Southern Nigerians, you know, if you have an extrapolation of some of these resolutions, you will find that other parts of the country, particularly in the North, you know, every right-thinking, fair-minded mind will support some of these resolutions, particularly the ones that border on insecurity that has pervaded our country for some time now. The thing is unabating, and there doesn't seem to be, you know, what do I call, respite, you know, for our people, you know, in the foreseeable future. You know, we have done everything in National Assembly. We have passed resolutions from our, you know, motions. We have tried to put in bills, you know, that ought to translate into laws, you know. These things, of course, are not working out. And, of course, with our governors from diverse parties, you know, backgrounds, religion, and all of that, you know, coming together, just like we are in National Assembly, to say these issues must be addressed now. And, of course, they are in conformity with, you know, our own minds, you know, in the Senate. We just said, look, this is what we have been waiting for. Of course, we stand by you. Anything we need to do to back you up at the center, you know, from the National Assembly, particularly from the Senate, we will do so. So I think, you know, what really, you know, has played out is the issue of insecurity in Nigeria presently. Every other thing that has to do with it, you know, we just believe what has to be done to guarantee the lives and property of Nigerians, we have to do it. If we now, because of grazing, by whatever open grazing, Fulani herdsmen have come under it, all right, to unleash terror on our people, killing our people, making, you know, a practice of agriculture or farming, you know, in the southern part of Nigeria impossible, you know, therefore guaranteeing food security and all of that. Then we just say, look, if you say you are banning it, we stand by it. Because if you remember in the 8th Senate, we passed so very many resolutions, you know, concerning open grazing. We opted for, you know, ranching. Motions were brought by different senators in the 8th Senate for grazing. Then motions were brought by senators for ranching. Okay? And I want to tell that these senators that came up with these motions came from the northern part of Nigeria. And while a segment was asking for ranching, other segment was asking for grazing. And then, of course, we passed a resolution eventually that it should be grazing. So if the governors are now coming to see...
Or ranching?
For ranching. So if the governors are now coming to, look, open grazing, Nobody would have been against it if it was as it was in the past. But now it has changed. People have come under it to unleash terror and perpetrate evil on our people. Therefore, it should be banned. This is exigent. This is what we believe is suspicious. And therefore, we support our governors.
How do you now think it's going to translate? I mean, this support, how is it going to translate into action? Because at the end of the day, it is not the resolutions themselves that will protect the people.
Yes.
It is action.
Yes.
And if you as senators say, oh, we've done everything, we have passed bills, we have done this and we have done that, and nothing seems to have worked. Yeah. What powers do you think you will now have as senators to go, I don't know, what new powers are you going to be exercising to ensure that what it is that they have moved as resolutions now translate into protection for the people?
Yes. Lawmaker, this is why the frustration that the governors, have experienced over time that led to some of the resolutions is the same frustration that we have seen in National Assembly. Now, because of the separation of powers and by provisions of our Constitution, the executive arm of government is to execute all resolutions, of course, passed by the National Assembly. It's our responsibility. If we say this should be, they command all the security forces, the police and all of that to effect it. Our resolutions do not carry any element of compulsion. It is for them to see that we are partners in progress. That's the executive arm. And anything we say, it is, of course, to ensure orderliness and good governance in our country. If they do not do it, and we keep crying up to the opting time, and the executive arm is not doing it, then there's a problem. If we pass a bill, and that bill is an intended law, the president does not assent to it, the provision that we have in our Constitution is to veto it. To veto, you need to third majority. And the way we are placed, the way we are in the National Assembly, we don't have the numbers. Even our northern colleagues, some of them that are sympathetic or, of course, that agree with some of these decisions, they cannot do it because of, the exigencies in the immediate environment. That is the problem. So, as it is now, the governors themselves have limited powers when it comes to issue of security. You say that they are chief security officers in their states, but they are not in control of the forces, even the police, talk less or the other arms, the other armed forces, to go into actualizing these decisions. They cannot. It's still an appeal, even if they come to the Senate, to say do amendments to our Constitution, unless we have the powers to effect it, to say, look, we command the Chief of Defense Staff or the Inspector General of Police or other security forces to implement these decisions. It is still the executive arm of government that will do. So saying it now is for us to speak up to all these issues. This is the way it is. This is our decision. After all, Nigeria is not about one man. Nigeria is about the people. So if those who have been elected by the people speak, and the majority of us speak in that regard, that we guarantee the lives of our people and their well-being, then of course I think it behooves on any arm that has to implement or execute these decisions.
Oh, well, you say that you have done everything. One of the things that the governors asked the president to do is to address the country, to address Nigerians.
Yes.
I think on one occasion at least in this particular assembly, the president has been invited to address members of the National Assembly. Yes. Just when we thought that was going to happen, it was scuttled, and it was seen that just died a natural death. There was no follow-up. There was no attempt to invite the president again or to seek legal means to compel him to come. What happened to that particular conversation?
Quite frankly, I think, speaking specifically, it was the House of Representatives that invited the president.
Indeed.
To come and brief the body, on issues concerning security. This same, it was, matters like this too, that arose then, and we too in the Senate, if you remember, You know, it was even the then Inspector General of Police that we invited. And the man was not coming. Right? I went to court. All right? Stopping the Senate from inviting him. Not to come and talk about our issues, you know, our personal issues, but to come and talk about security issues in Nigeria. And of course, you know, then things had not escalated to this extent. And, you know, let me say this. In other climes, in other countries, we are not even going outside the shores of Africa, where the citizens are in despair. When the citizens are in despair, I mean in distress, it behoves on the leadership, the father figure of the nation, the president, to keep talking to the people, giving them solace and assurances that it will, you know, the peril will soon be over. But when that one is not there, there will be hues and cries. We have somebody who is the father of this country in the person of the president. And you should not be tired of talking to Nigerians, giving them assurances, even if he has to do it 10 times in a day. As the circumstance dictates, he has to do it. In America, it has happened before. When, of course, the September 11, invasion by terrorists, the American president kept on talking to Americans, assuring them that this is the time for all of them to come together so that they can overcome the peril of the moment. In Kenya, when COVID-19 broke, the president kept on talking to Kenyans, assuring them that the government was on top of the matter and will guarantee the well-being of the citizens. Our own cannot be different. You know, everybody is talking about it. It's not too right for those of us who are in government to come in and start criticizing ourselves. When there is inaction, of course, there will be talks. And when there are talks, we cannot imagine the extent it can go. It's not for us to come to public space and say, this one is wrong or this one is right. But Nigerians perceive us from a distance. That you are a senator, you are a member of the House of Representatives, you are in the National Assembly. Anything that is happening to me now that is not right, you are party to it. This is why we have to speak up. The extent to which the Constitution and our statutory functions can carry us. We have been talking. I will keep talking. I'm not talking because I'm a PDP senator. I'm talking because I'm a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I should be able to talk to any arm of government, particularly anybody in executive position, particularly the president, that this is the way we should go. And if this way is the one that can benefit the greater majority of Nigeria, so be it.
So I remember then, I think that was Senator Adetumbi who, and I don't remember if it was 8th Assembly or 9th Assembly, and, that suggested that if, the president has problems, maybe there are constitutional constraints stopping him from coming to address members of the National Assembly, that perhaps members of the National Assembly could go to the president to find out what was going on. Is it something that has been considered?
Well, I can tell you as a matter of fact that oftentimes, at least in this next assembly, we have met about twice, executive session, talking to the leadership of the Senate. Of the Senate. I'm telling you, I was saying in the Senate.
Yes.
And I know the House of Representatives, they have done so too. When we say executive session, talking to ourselves on very burning national issues. And this issue of insecurity, we have discussed it more than once. If you have watched our sessions, we have all discussed it. We have spoken at the top of our voices. And even for the first time, when it comes to insecurity, we are all joined. Because we have all subscribed to oaths of allegiance and oath of office. And if that is the case, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we have sworn to uphold it in all its entirety. And if a section of the Constitution says that the primary purpose of government is the security of lives and property of the citizens, and somebody is not carrying it out, somebody is violating that provision. And because we too are subscribed in that section, that we must uphold this, therefore, this thing must transcend party, personal, religious, regional interest. So, we have met many times. And we have told the presiding officers. When I say presiding officer, the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President. And quite frankly, I mean, the Senate President, we know his deep concerns. He's a marvelous leader, no doubt about that. And each time we say, I will go to the President, he has gone to the President. We have seen it on television. He goes there, they interface with him, and they come back. We are expecting changes, but the changes do not come. If you remember, jointly, the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, they went to see the President. And at different times, the President went to see the President. Still on this issue of insecurity, the Speaker of the House of Representatives went to see the President. So they have done that. Why is it not changing? At a time, in fact, last week, the security chiefs were invited to executive sessions. Let us know what the problem is. The Senate, we invited them many times. At different times, security chiefs came, NSA came. They spent hours with us. We tried to locate where the problem is. In the Senate, what we found out was that there was really no amity, no agreement between service chiefs. We had interagency rivalry, which of course militated against prosecuting the war in a joint manner. All right? But now, with the briefing we had last week, we are beginning to see that there is collaboration of efforts among the service chiefs. And we do pray that they sustain that. Because in the Senate, we found out that some of the security chiefs were not working in tandem for a common purpose. And we asked why. And we asked the question, is the President aware that there is discord amongst you? That's the question. And basically we asked the NSA, you are supposed to be coordinating security activities. What is happening? If you see one security chief not cooperating with you or with an objective that is put in place, why don't you report to the man that has appointed all of you? That is a problem. But we are beginning to see now, to some extent, there's amity. How does this translate? Initially, no money. We will need money to buy military wares, pay, personnel and all that. National Assembly, that's what we are there for. That is it. I challenge anyone. If there is any time they have come to ask for funds to be able to prosecute this war and bring it to a stop, there's no time. They have come in. So it's not all about appropriation. And I'm very sure very soon they're going to come back again to say this is the way to go. But not to buy these arms and ammunitions, okay, only for them to be taken by insurgents. That is where, we are looking at. But I am not privileged, to have access to intelligence, okay, information and all of that. But those of them that is arm of government, like the President, he has at his disposal all the intelligence apparatus to know exactly what is happening.
So I'm just wondering now, I'm wondering how to reconcile, or how you, for instance, would reconcile some of, you accept that you're from a different party. Yes. However, the problem that we have seen now has transcended party lines. Nonetheless, your party has come up with a few suggestions. In some instances, they have been, I don't want to say adversarial, but one might say adversarial. And in some other instances, they have extended a hand of cooperation, so to speak. That's on the one hand. Now, on the other hand, you now have another coalition, so to speak, coming up with other suggestions. How do you ever feel conflicted with some of the groupings which you belong to, presenting sometimes different, streams of thoughts on how to combat this insecurity?
But let me say this: whatever has been the position of the major opposition party, that is the PDP. And what we have seen, from, the resolutions of the governors, you know, who are from different parties, you know, outside of APC and PDP. We have Abka governor and all of that, you know. I think these resolutions are in tandem. All that the PDP has been talking about, let us put partisan politics aside. Nobody wants to play with the insecurity of its citizens, okay, in the country. Nobody. Because the more you try to politicize it, the more you fool yourself and bring to the fore, you know, extreme partisanship. And of course, that is enough to offend the sensibilities of our people. But this one that we have been talking about, I can assure you that it's not the PDP that has been, you know, on the path of trying to ensure or provide solutions to this issue of insecurity in Nigeria. My own colleagues in the APC, they have equally stood up. We have a YPP senator too, you know, in the Senate. All of us have acted in unison as to what to do or what the decision should be when it concerns insecurity. Because the Nigerians that are being killed, farmers are being killed in my place who are Benin. All right? The same thing, people who are from Kanuri in Borno, all sorts. What is happening in the southeast, what is happening in the southwest, everybody, every tribe. There's no tribe that can say we have not lost one person or so, you know, to this is, I mean, banditry or, you know, kidnapping and all of that. We are all united. Nobody should talk about politics when it comes to this. The governors, what has been amazing about this decision is that they too have been pushed to the corner. Everybody, they cannot, I mean, there's no governor that will sit in the comfort of his office and hear that the citizens, you know, Nigerian citizens in the state are being killed, are being butchered. And you are not doing anything about it, you are helpless. So I have not seen any conflict. It's only when it concerns insecurity in Nigeria.
What about when the minority leader in the Senate says that the president should resign for incompetence or over incompetence? Or is that playing politics?
Let me say this. There are grave consequences for grave offenses, okay, in our constitution. The constitution being a ground norm, there are provisions. And there are those provisions, when you violate them, we want to look at the remedy. Okay? In the Senate, you remember, the purchase of the Tucano aircraft. I was the chairman of the Senate Committee on Public Accounts. The week before the matter came to the Senate, it was discussed in the House of Representatives. Honorable Chinda was the chairman of the House Committee on Public Accounts and said, we heard that the Nigerian government paid for Tucano aircrafts at a certain cost, running to hundreds of millions of dollars. And we said it was wrong. No penny, no 1 naira, leave the consolidated revenue fund without appropriation by National Assembly. That is the Constitution. Section 80, clear on it. And of course, the following week, the matter came. And Chinda, the House of Reps, okay, in the debate, said that it was a grievous offense, a violation of our own rights.
Well, Senator Matthew Urohide is still here with us. He is the Secretary of Southern Senators. He's right here now, Abuja Studios. Well, Senator, you're making a point just before we went on break, talking about Tucano aircraft and what Representative Chinda was saying about it.
Yes. Now, when it came, you know, to the knowledge of National Assembly that the president, you know, or Nigeria had paid for the purchase of Tucano aircraft, certainly on the instruction of Mr. President, we don't felt it was an infringement on the provision of the Constitution. And it came up in the Senate. And of course, the Senate President, once expenditure is consummated, it comes to public accounts. He now called, Chairman, this is an issue. Speak on this issue. And then, of course, I stood up. And I said it was a violation of Section 80 of the Constitution. No matter the nobility in that expenditure, the President ought to have come to us. What was so important? In one day, that request could have been attended to and passed. But it didn't come. I said it was wrong. what we do? If there is an infraction committed by the president and the vice president, Section 143 of the Constitution is applicable. And then go and read all the 11 subsections, writing to him to explain, and the thing gradually, it moves on. And the last stage of it is impeachment. But we needed to find out from Mr. President why that infraction was committed. That was where we were. Let us evoke Section 143. All right? Back home, I was attacked at the airport when I got to Benin. How dare you say they should impeach you, Mr. President? That's what we saw in 2017. All right? Now, today, what is it happening? Still infractions on the provision of the Constitution. If my minority leader, Senator Inaya Baribe, said the president should be impeached, he has taken it to say this is the ultimate, because anything that has to do with the infraction of the provision of the Constitution, Section 42B, is very clear that the primary purpose of government, the primary purpose of federal government is security of lives and property of Nigerians. That's it. If their rights, Nigerians are being decimated, they are being killed, they are being slaughtered, their fortunes are dwindling, they are in despair, they are in distress, and government that has the responsibility of ensuring that these things do not happen to them, it's lax about it. It's not a violation. And of course, in Schedule 7, we have equally subscribed to oaths. Do we sit down and not take any action? That will not be right. We will not be fair to the people because we present them. That was why he said, not like some of us canvass, if there is inaction on the part of the man who has the executive arm of government, federal government, we can see that there is no action that is taken to ameliorate this despicable situation we have found ourselves. Let us go to Section 143. That was where he went to. But, of course, even when we start to gather signatures today to say this is the action we want to take against the president, there are going to be people that will rise who are excessively partisan or tribalistic or nepotic to the extent that they will say, no, what you are doing is wrong. That again could happen to anybody. When Obasanjo was there, if you remember, Pius Ayim was the president of the Senate. Senators gathered and said they were going to gather signatures to impeach him. Of course, he quickly had a back step on whatever he was doing that bordered on misgovernance. So the same thing. When you canvass it, people think, oh, you want to let heaven and earth loose. Is that more than the number of Nigerians that have died? And look at it. Look at the frenzy everybody is in Nigeria. Is it right? There's so much of insecurity. If you want to commit suicide now, go from Kaduna, Abuja to Kaduna. If you want to commit suicide. Some of our colleagues last week or 2 weeks, were almost killed on the way from Benin to Abuja. Who is safe? If anybody wants to play politics, it is not the security of the lives of our people that we should play politics with, irrespective of who. Let us call a spade a spade. This country, the way we are, we need to do certain things urgently. Look, let me say this. The NSAS protests that came up, so some of us, we just believe it was not properly managed. But it had noble objective. Till today, what plans do we have for the youths? What plans? Some of us mooted it. A lot of graduates from secondary school, college of education, college of technology, polytechnics, universities, in millions. We turn them out over 2 million every year. They're out there to show concern for their plight. Tell them, go to your different local government areas, go and register. Let us even know the number. Let us have the demographics. This number we have in this area, this number we have in this area. Every year, put it in black and white in your appropriation bill. In your budget, we are going to spend 5 billion this year to create. Government is the largest employer of labor. Yeah, put policies in place too that can make them, engage in economic activities that can make them heck a living. But let us see practical, steps taken. So, I mean, some of us too are taking the battery for it. After the NSA protest, what came out? People were going to bomb my house. No mind the fact, oh, this man is trying. Yeah, I've trained over 4,000 or 5,000 youths in my area. so that they have another window of opportunity of success in life. I've given out scholarship. But when the trouble comes, they don't see the man at the top. They don't see the president. They see us. The number of times they'll be demonstrating, how many of them have gone to the villa? They come to the National Assembly. They stop us from doing our work. We can't have entrance to our offices. And you think we just keep quiet? We have to speak to these issues.
Let's take this to Lagos now. Gentlemen.
There was something you said. You said it twice. That the primary responsibility of government shall be the security and welfare of the people. And the question I ask is, we all know that that responsibility starts with the executive. Now, how in the universe are we getting that done, Senator? How are we ensuring that the security of lives and property, which is the primary responsibility of government, is affected? You have said it twice, and that is something that the Office of the President is supposed to prioritize, to take on. The question then is, if that is not being done, and the National Assembly is supposed to be performing oversight over even the Office of the President, then what then is the problem?
Thank you. I think the problem really is the implementation of decisions. There are obvious facts, that we have. These facts are such that if the executive arm, the president, if we prefer solution, for instance, and the president is supposed to implement those preferred solutions, he has to do it, quickly. And to do it quickly, because doing it quickly will ensure that we get the results. The result of having to secure the lives and property of our citizens. Let me give you a typical example. This year's budget, if you go and check, the defense has a budget of over 800 billion. The police, because of reformation and all of that, had a budget of over 440 billion. The reason why the budgets were increased was equally supposed to meet with the deficiencies that we have seen in their personnel. Do you know a country that has a population of over 200 million people, our armed forces, security forces, are about 1.2 million. There's nowhere in the world it exists. Even countries, small countries in West Africa, that have a population of 15 million, at least 10% of the population are in the armed forces. If you put Nigeria, the armed forces, Nigeria Army, Navy, and Air Force, they're about 600,000. If we were to man our border of over 900,000 square kilometers, it will not be enough. You want to do recruitment of policemen, 10,000 every year, when presently what you have is less than 300,000? How can you police Nigeria? So, it's the hues and cries that you hear about not policing Nigeria properly, about not defending our territorial integrity or insurgency or banditry, kidnapping and what have you. We don't have the manpower. If National Assembly says, for you to be able to meet with your responsibility, discharging your constitutional responsibility, we are giving you this amount of money. Go and recruit personnel. During the Civil War, virtually every street, they were recruiting people into the armed forces to go and fight the Nigerian Civil War. But this time, we are even a worse war. And no recruitment. National Assembly, what can we do? Appropriation, take. Look, you must get people to fight this war. Why is there have a segment of our people clamoring that we should invite people from outside? Because you don't have the personnel to fight. We don't even have the machinery. We don't have the military hardware to fight this war. The Tucano aircraft that we ordered in 2017, under very quick, urgent, all right, whatever, situation, they have still not arrived 3 years after. So what's your urgency in paying for those aircrafts and not receiving them, and the cost of vetting the provision of the Constitution, which says that any amount of money that must be spent from the Consolidated Revenue Fund must be appropriated by the National Assembly. We violated it, we went to pay. Those aircrafts now, they have not come. Well, for this, for us to meet up with that provision of the Constitution, security of lives and property of our people, the best that we can do as an assembly is to provide solutions. One of
Senator,
them, make appropriation for proper recruitment. Why must we take only 10,000 policemen?
Pardon me, let me just jump in and ask you.
The litigations going on between
just hang on a minute, Senator. Hope you can hear me.
And the Police Service Commission, they have not been able to even recruit people.
All right, just because yesterday, the governor of Ondo State did say that, well, look, if you have to make an omelette, you have to break the egg. And that was in response to a question about some of these 10-point demand which had to do with the provisions of the Constitution. And then it says, well, if it means amending or coming up with a new Constitution, then so be it. But there are those who believe that the National Assembly is not in a position to give us a new Constitution, that they can only amend. So in the event that the Southern senators succeed in lobbying their Northern counterparts, do you think that the National Assembly is equipped to address some of those demands which you refer to, which have to do with a new Constitution?
Well, first, I agree that the National Assembly has the capacity to amend our Constitution to the extent that it may look brand new. There is nothing that says every clause in the Constitution cannot be amended. All right? So if we do an amendment to all the clauses, we'll probably have a brand new Constitution. But, be that as it may, the amendments that are very urgent, presently we have to do those amendments. You know, amending a clause in the Constitution does not translate to being amended. I mean, by the National Assembly does not translate to is being amended. That is why when the governors now, the southern governors too, have come up to say, we are going to, you know, partner with National Assembly members, is to make the process of amendment, you know, of our Constitution, you know, easier and faster. Because before you can do any amendment to the Constitution, by the time we get to third majority in the National Assembly, we are still going to get to third majority into third number of states. So with the governors coming in now, 17 states in the south, and according 19 states in the north, we will still be able to get people who, of course, will key or buy into, you know, the nobility of any amendment that is sought. Therefore, it will be easier. We can do the amendment. There's nothing that stops us from doing the amendment in totality or in part, you know, of our Constitution. So with the governors that are there, because the State House of Assembly, just like you know, many of them are, you know, under the very strict watch, you know, of their governors. Not very many of them, really, you know, can take certain decisions without their governors, you know, having to, you know, to prod them. So I just believe that if we are all serious and in the face of what stares us, you know, directly now, I think a lot of us are very zealous about amendments.
Well, distinguished, we'll see how that eventually goes, because people are quite scared. There are people who are saying, no, amendment is not the way to go. We have been amending before now. And key amendments that we need to see and pass and take through, sometimes when they eventually manage to go through the National Assembly, will not be signed by the President. We said that, I think, with the 7th Assembly. Now we're in the 9th Assembly, and another amendment is already going on, as we see with almost every assembly. There are some who are saying, you know, how certain are we? Because you spoke about frustrations that you have experienced in the National Assembly. How do you think that key decisions which would result in fundamental changes, which is what a number of people are clamoring for, including now the southern governors and now southern senators, how do you think it's going to go through when it will seem that you still do not have the numbers? Or do you now have it?
Well, like I said, in the face of present realities, what was not convincing yesterday could become convincing today. The issue of state police, if you remember, even the National Conference of 2014 did not agree because the state governors who are in charge will misuse power. All right? But today, everybody is gravitating in a direction that, yes, state police should be it. Or at least, there dare not be that central command. Let us now devolve it to the zones and give them full autonomy. At least 2-3 states coming together. That's the recommendation now. So in the face of present day reality, we have found that the central command of Nigeria police cannot help us fight crimes or police Nigeria properly. So whatever it is, you know, I want to say again, this element of frustration, if the executive arm and the executive arm were working together for the common good of Nigerians, and we have a clear understanding of what it is, all right, in the presidential system that we run, therefore, I don't think we will pass a law or a bill, and for it to become law, you need the assent of Mr. President, and Mr. President will decline assent. That's why we say the governors have come now. All of us are going to pressurize because the constitution of Nigeria is about one man with all overweening powers. All right? So, as the president, we need him because not very many persons too who are overtly sentimental about this issue of tribe, where you come from, is our man, is not our man, that we see reason. Since the governors, I was seeing the papers yesterday, you'll be surprised. Some are saying that decision is secessionist. All right? So somebody is saying there is insecurity in Nigeria. The other is saying that there is unemployment. Somebody is saying the economy is down there. Somebody is saying our future is bleak. You say your pronouncement is secessionist. And it came from a senator. All right? So there's nothing you are going to say if it doesn't come from your backyard or from your family, or from your state, or from your region, or from your tribe. That doesn't make reason. So when there are divergent opinions like this, the president probably will have good grounds for not assenting. Whether we do this or don't do this, we are still going to send it to him for assent. All right? So anything we do, we will need his cooperation. We will need his understanding. All right? But it behoves on all of us, in and out of government, to pressurize every segment to say this is the way to go for a new and better Nigeria.
So let us hope that eventually, words will translate into action, and action will eventually translate into security of the lives of the people of Nigeria, because eventually I think that's what a lot of people are agitating, for here. And I want to believe that that's the common interest that binds us all together. Distinguished chefs, thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Senator Matthew Urohide is the Secretary of Southern Senators Forum, who recently released a statement in support of the resolutions of the governors from the southern part of Nigeria.